Okay, let's get going. As I mentioned, one of the great things about this panel is we'll try and do it from the point of view of actual real implementation for better within organisations. So let's start with you, Karen. What's your role with delivering customer experience, and how are you shifting that from a traditional service delivery point of view? Just tell us a bit about what you do, how you transition.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, I'm from the Department of Managing Environment and Climate Action in Victoria. And so I look after the customer and digital division for Solar Victoria. So we're responsible for delivering the solar rebates program for loans rebates and our Victorian Energy Upgrades program, which is all about helping Victorians to engage in the electrification journey and reduce their house costs. So we have a really strong focus on customer first. We're a digital first organisation. We have the luxury of being a bit of a government startup, which means our technology is really young. We don't have legacy issues that other organisations have to deal with, so I do feel for the rest of you who have that problem. And so we've been able to integrate and automate all of our customer portal and our industry portal so that it talks to other systems through a lot of clever APIs. So lots of good automation, and we're just now exploring AI opportunities.
And yes, yeah, the same question. What's your role? What do you do, and how are you improving the customer experience?
Oh, okay, excellent. So Eban. So I'm on the other side of the fence from industry. So we help government transform those horrible legacy systems, and we help advise on new customer experience journeys.
And
So my name is Scott, and I'm the Enterprise Solution Architect at the Devonport City Council, and my role really is to build apps, integrations to improve internal customers, also external customers. But so far we've got over 1,000 in automation in place at the Devonport City Council, which sort of automates from basic tasks from emails to more advanced report generation. And now we're really looking at how can we use AI in sort of a broader perspective than just issuing KR licenses.
right, and Karen, you're from a Healthdirect Australia. It was a very interesting situation. So what's happening?
Yeah, so I look after strategy and consumer experience for Healthdirect Australia. So we're funded by all of the governments of Australia to provide free health advice and help people connect to care so they can access the right care first time to meet their needs. And we're completely virtual. So we talk about virtual, so we offer telehealth, you can speak to a nurse, we run a virtual GP platform for the country with seeing access to GP in the middle of the night. If you now get to Eureka the GP, we run Australia's largest health library, and about 2,100 pages of web content, and also an online symptom checker that uses probabilistic AI to help people to understand what their symptoms might be and what care they might need. So we're doing, because we're virtual, we use quite a lot of technology, obviously, to be able to support consumers. But I think in terms of that consumer experience, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't really know one of our key services. I don't really know what I need. I'm feeling quite ill and unwell, and I really want a trusted organisation that has the political backing to be able to help me to understand what I need to do and provide me that advice, information and connection to be able to seek care and get well. So really, if everything we do revolves around that outcome of helping consumers, then it'll meet our funders' expectation of how people get the right care at the right time.
This brings us to the next question, which I think everyone in the whole conference is asking. What role should AI automation play in their business, and in this case, improving the customer experience? And just based on your own experience, where do we draw the line in deploying AI? We've got to have the human element to some extent. Where do you draw the line on that? And I think everyone else at this conference is having the same. So So yourself, you
Yeah, sure. I think, you've got to start small, but we will have programs and guardrails around our AI. I run a loan program for rebates, for loans for solar BB, batteries and other means, and we probably won't be using AI for checking responsible lending or for debt recovery. Just because of the risk involved around that. So I think there's got to be a risk-based lens to it, but also we don't want to stifle innovation. So we're thinking of ways that we can use it that solve problems, and I think if we can understand the problems first, then we're trying to solve all the opportunity, then we can apply the right technology to that, whether that's AI or automation or something else.
I think that's a good approach. I mean, we had a keynote yesterday afternoon with David Naramore from the US Homeland Security, and what came out of that was that how carefully they looked at each application and where the benefit would be, rather than feeling a need to panic or rush into generative AI or even now agentic AI solutions. So I think it's good to go that way. Evan, where do you stand off this?
I think there's a huge opportunity. In fact, all organisations, government and non-government, already use AI. I think the principle-based approach is very wise. I think that's where everyone's doing in the moment. Just from a technology point of view, I'd say the biggest thing is the quality of the AI. And there's a lot of trend array where people are moving towards automate specific AI. What I mean by that is if you have AIs for different purposes and different ways to ensure quality and make sure that those...
So a tool that you can use.
It's another tool, value tools, automation, okay, and then whatever the next play of the months is. I think under the hood, because it's all based on probability, there's always going to be that error rate. So that question becomes, well, how you actually improve that error rate around that. They're getting quite good results. So there's different ways to benchmark AI. If you have a look at it, then NBA AI, I think ChatGPT released version 5 last week or whatever it was. There's a bunch of different ways to benchmark. And one of them is a human reasoning approach. And they basically ask the AI 120 questions and getting the AI to respond. And the AI is just like get marked on the exam. And then they need to score for that particular AI on how they perform at certain tasks, which is really interesting. Most of the AIs on ChatGPT on the latest reasoning one, things score 86%. So I'll be really soaked on 86% on a UE exam. I have to be honest, they get pretty good right. But still, there is that error rate there as well. It just has to be dealt with.
Scott, I'm really curious in your case because you're with Devonport Council, where we all have local government authorities that we pay our rates to, and I'm very curious as to how you're going with AI in that driven.
We're going as long as people, so there's so many services that come and the difference will say it's sort of a difference. But at the moment, so to take in less risky approach, right? We've got chatbots, but we're getting implementing a chatbot which you can talk to a car and the electrics will tell you how much you're in your brain, insert payment please. Now, I love new technology, but I do think there's limitations you have to put in. So, for example, get parking enforcement. I think cameras now can easily detect parking infringements. But if you're going to implement that, you need human oversight because we are very bad. So the AI might not fully understand context or make it confused and identify what data shows and what I think those sorts of issues. So in a time, so if we use AI parking or planning approvals, we want human wanted to play something, but we don't want it to take action on it. So, and I think taking a low-risk approach is probably the best way of doing it, which is to go see can implement AI, something that they should do it. So.
Yeah, I think as a parkour, I would appreciate your portrait there. Karen, this is a particularly big question for you, Healthdirect, because we're talking about trust, we're talking about people being used to a human element in their contacts over apps. So how do you look at us?
Yeah, I think as Subdirect Australia take that risk sort of approach, so it's a good approach. It is making sure that our consumers want clearly accurate information, and we want to make sure they're healthy. So of course, in using AI, we want to make sure that's going to help achieve that outcome. I think we also have to consider the context that we're in at the moment. A lot of people are starting to use ChatGPT, and they don't have the same governance model or responsibility for health. So we do have to think about, I guess there's behaviours and how we generate that or promote to be able to use AI in a safe way. And I also think as we're working with the University of Sydney on a couple of projects, and I was talking to Julie actually who's here about your translation. So at the moment in terms of accessibility, we had a lower amount of cultural and super investigating we use our services, and one of the reasons of that is that we've done some research with consumers and they don't always like using the interpreter. Both because it can take time to get on the call, dialectic difference, and also sometimes they don't will share that explanation with an interpreter. And so we're actually doing speaking to consumers about that, and they've said, look, we recognise that AI may not be perfect, but it might be better than the experience we've got right now. And so I think talking to consumers and understanding their risk tolerance is part of the equation, as well as, of course, the need for that clinical accuracy. And things are evolving so quickly. But if we've got our clinicians, in the process of training that AI, then I think we can work really well with industry to make sure we're implementing it at the right time in the right way.
Which brings to the next question. We technologists love our shiny new tools and ways of doing things. But as you were alluding to, at the end of the process, we are providing services to citizens, and part of the way of implementing these changes, we presumably to consult with your customers, and so are you doing that? And also, are they giving you feedback, and what are they saying? They're the recipients for this change. How are they reacting?
I had a thing. We have a responsibility and for service and for purpose to get on with it. And the AI automate, whatever the technology is, we can't be left behind and we can't leave people behind. So as long as we're looking at our processes in an inclusive and accessible ways, Karen mentioned, I think speaking to customers, they expect their government services to be just as trustworthy as other services they're using and paying for. And so we just can't afford to be left behind. And I think the expectation on consumers is that we're up to date with it and that it's safe. We've got to get a move on.
So the customers expect...
They're expecting it already.
Yeah. Are you using it those places too? So, yeah.
The thing's really a good point. Asking the customer and consumer what it is they want. And I'm a scientist, as an academic, like when you come to peer journal articles, that type of thing, you disclose end use of AI, you actually use them in the article, and provided that to your customers as well, so they know whatever service it is they're actually getting, that what's actually sitting behind it. They're transparent about that is the way to build trust. That's super important.
Yeah, I guess, Scott, I wonder how much when it comes to council, and I look at where I am and in part of the country, do they consult much with customers when they bring in these changes, or and new ways of having to pay your rates and everything like that?
I personally think I could probably do a better job engaging with the community when it comes to smaller changes, but for when it comes to AI, I've got two trains of what. First thing is, we've got people in the community that expect to have the side of the services that they use for everyone else. That will also have the community scan AI or not able to interact with that. So I say from that perspective, we can implement the services, but we shouldn't at this side don't have to be focusing it to interact with that. So So give them an option to talk to first, and make it clear that the AI just being transparent about it, and then also engage for them and see if this is something before investing in sort of an expensive system. Do they actually want to anyone use it? So,
Karen, you kind of answered this last time around, but I guess I could ask you the final bit around this, and that is, are you getting feedback on the the implementation of automation and so on? Or do people engage with Healthdirect, give you some indicators of how they see this?
Yeah, I mean, I think with AI, because with our second checker, we do have, as I said, probabilistic AI, self-generated AI. We do get feedback on that through feedback channels, but I think that for your transparency, we have we review our AI statement online. But other than that, we're very much still in the design stage for maybe other AI deploying, or we'll say big data here, and for that we are engaging issues. So we have engaged with people that don't speak English that understand what do you think about that on the phone. We've asked people about chatbots. We've asking them at the moment, how would an AI help to personalise and summarise your health information, and do you trust that, and does that help increase comprehension and also confidence in our service without reducing trust? So you were doing a lot of research, and I think it's supposed to understand communities and make sure that we're not implementing technology that's actually not going to deliver the outcome, because that would be a waste of taxpayer money. But I think it's also important as a health service to have, and as a government service to have some of that capabilities that as an industry and as as people start to scrutinise why are we doing things and how we're doing things, we need to make sure that you're making decisions based on that evidence. And because as you point out, it's 86% accurate. Well, that's still a space for a problem, and that human error is a problem too. So especially in health, we need to make sure that we really make decisions that we can justify, and that we can stand behind, and then also that we can obviously very clearly say, this is why we did this is how we did this, here's the checkpoints you put this through with consumers, and so then we can make sure when we're checking that tech, when we're updating our tech, we've got that human in the loop, that it kind of consumers, or I guess in how we evolve.
The next question is really about behind the scenes kind of adaptation. Legacy systems, siloed data has been a big problem across organisations, historically. How are you addressing that, or is it an issue for you? And how would you be addressing it yourself, of course, Kate?
Yeah, I think like I didn't touch on this before, we don't have huge amounts of legacy systems or data, but we are spending a lot of time looking at, we don't have a data strategy, we've got huge amounts of data that we do research and insights, and we use that information. And to Karen's point, you can use some of that customer feedback and the focus groups and the conversations we're having with consumers actually gets us into the boardroom to ask for the money in the first place. So it can be that storytelling is really important. But where you start from, I think, I would start with data and understanding the kind of data architecture of your organisation and where you've interacted that data, where you're going to use that data, where it adds value, and then understand how you're managing that data and where would investment in AI support solving some of those problems for providing quicker, faster, easier, simpler consumer engagement for services.
Evan, I'm not sure if this much of this is for you or not. I mean, I don't know whether you deal with historic data.
Awesome. It's that data is a treasure chest of information, in the absolute treasure chest. Everybody here, traditionally people try and stick a BI tool over top of it with the analytics dashboard, build up one of those, right? Where it's got 200 charts in front of us, and you're like, what does all that mean? Well, what AI can offer people is having 12 PhDs, so 12 of evidence in your back pocket. Imagine that, can be awesome, right? Which can analyse that data and create all sorts of insights for you. But at the end of the day, what's really important is creating a level of trust. I think it's great, but where is that actual data being consumed within the AI, and making sure that there's a bunch of data sovereignty around that and how that's actually exposed as well. But you guys are sitting on treasure chests of information where you can unlock all sorts of insights into your existing customer base.
I guess that's the ultimate way. It's getting that information and making it ready to be used in a really constructive way.
I know what you use this concept. Make sure you get data sovereignty sorted. So don't just bloody yourself willy-nilly. Government doesn't do that anyway. But there's different ways from the technology point of view to connect to that data. Whether you could train the model itself to be more domain specific on things you're looking at, or there's different technologies on how you can actually connect to that data as well. If you want to look it up, look up these two acronyms, RAG, write that one down. That's a retrieval mechanism, or another approach is called FCP. That's more around how you actually can interact with data and drive things off that data as well. So look up those two acronyms, then you can start unlocking that treasure chest of data then.
Scott, Council, we have heaps of old Java data that might be really useful going forward.
We're running our fee and it's notoriously hard to integrate with. It's expensive. So we've actually developed solutions around it, using ETLs to pull out the data, put into databases, then we can use that in AI. It's one of those things where with all of our data, we've got a firewall system that we just got API access into, which is all the customer service for separate sort of taking this AI to summarize it, and we're actually looking at interviewing leads with our chatbots. So instead of just having scrape on the website, which is what we're currently doing, we actually have real data coming from our customer service officers every day going also.
You're on the cutting edge, Scott, got it.
So ETLs are something which are essential when it comes to working with our system. You can do it, and so we get our data out. And I believe once we get more API access, we actually make our chatbot actually reactions to so updated details instead of just pulling out data.
Karen, I'm not sure whether you work with old data, how applicable this is to you, right?
I think that, for us, our organisation has been around since 2006. And one of the aims of the government is to build centralised infrastructure that can scale, that can be reused by other governments so that there's benefit there. But as that has evolved, we've built a helpline, we've built a website, we've built very much that kind of services are in silos. And so our objective now with the expectation, and I think a consumer has an expectation from organisations like Amazon or other organisations where you go from one, you're on your phone, then you're in your browser, maybe you pick up the phone and they see what you've done there, and that information about you and your experience is seamless. And so I think that's really the next horizon for us is we'll be doing consumer journey mapping to look at what have you done that with consumers, to look at what do you want the future state to be for us sitting advice and addiction to care across all of those channels. And then we're really thinking about what's the technology layer under that we need to be able to start to combine, centralise, share that data to support that consumer experience. So I think, again, the idea that I think it's really great if the consumer experience that we want can inform what we then are going to try to, what's happened with procuring to deliver that. And I think, Kate, you made a really good point around that. It's what kind of data do we need to be able to enable it, and we move from there.
Coming back to you, Kate, I suppose, we talked about trust, we talked about what consumers want. How do you actually measure it effectively? You've got impact, equity, trust, many of these factors. How do you really know what is working and what isn't?
So it's Department of Environment, VGG Environment. We use multiple things to measure the customer's insights and their experience. We use all the normal things, the voice of customer surveys, we do outreach, with customers, if we're building new programs, we all run focus groups, those types of things. We do journey mapping with customers to do early design. I work in an organisation, it's very policy heavy. Talking to consumers while they're driving policy was unheard of, really. Sorry to policy people in the room. So we've embedded some things in our decision-making frameworks early on in service sort of program design that says you must find out what the consumer thinks about this and what they need before you get to the end of the policy stage and you hand it over to my team to deliver it. So we measure that in the outcome where we have a measurement and evaluation framework and build up front. We measure it in take-up of programs, how many people are using it, what's their feedback about it, and then are they getting the results they want out of that in the long run. So we're also extending our measurement into research around behaviours and how people use energy in their home, and so that's really important to us too. In interacting with Solar Victoria and the trust that you build with that government interaction has an impact on people's trust in the whole energy transition journey, and we're very aware of that our interaction could impact someone's trust in government's whole process around electrification and climate change. So every interaction that we have with our consumers, even might be small, is important for that bigger trust focus. And we ask about that as well. When we're surveying our customers, we ask about future behaviours, about electrifying their home, about are they saving as much money as they expected to save, and we use all of that information to report on the benefits that our programs are delivering.
Evan, have you got a regime around measuring these sort of attributes?
I'm just sitting here listening to what we're doing and going, wow, that sounds amazing. It must be collecting so much valuable data. Sounds like shit's AI.
It's the money.
Yeah, it's actually got that expensive. Scott was tell us about your job. You sent email work within everything as well, which I thought was filled and I sent it in. Yeah, that's not as big a barrier there to get going used to be.
No, it had me affordable and you want to do it yourself, and it was basically a flipper. And not that big a skill was either. It's got to do anything cast too.
Yeah, ask your local. Yeah, data sovereignty. Amazing.
I suppose we've kind of, talked a bit about that. Yeah, there is a question here that we can ask about just the implementation, how AI and changes with customer experience are implemented in your organisation. Like, do you try things as pilot projects, and do they kind of either make it or not make it, or is that the way you kind of introduce these innovations within the customer experience boxes?
Yeah, absolutely. Pilots are really important. If you would probably start most things off with a bit of a trial or a pilot. I know one's happening now in our bushfires team where they're piloting the use of AI to test the probability of a particular fire area to be high risk from various inputs. And they use that information in their probability planning around where they infrastructure, road design, all that type of thing around high risk fire zones. And they're using that data now as a pilot to understand that planning, future planning.
Evan, you'd have something to say on this, the radiation choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the various trial getting this implementation underway around AI, it's significantly reduced in the last 6 to 12 months at least. From a pure technology point of view, like some of the big organisations that drop in open source AI models onto the internet right now. ChatGPT dropped one of their big models a couple of weeks ago, which is now all open source, so people could just use that locally, which is amazing. And the actual way to integrate with it is being standardised recently. Those two acronyms I mentioned earlier are making it very easy. And then to interact with the AI itself was just over an API-based technologists. That sort of bread and butter architecture. A first-year student how to do and so that the barriers could definitely drops. So these types of customer experiences can be explored far easy.
Yeah, I'm finding just as a user that as time goes on, the more AI tools I'm using, like Copilot or that, the more I'm working out the boundaries around how I'm using it. And then that gives me a sense of confidence that I can work with AI within those boundaries. And I work out.
Don't just sit up on AI. Try the different AIs better for different purpose. So that's what I was encouraging you to think earlier. Think about what AIs are do for what task, and then use that particular one.
So we're going between GPT and Copilot and Gemini.
Absolutely. I don't just get on one. Everyone I've noticed people just go ChatGPT and say there for absolutely everything. But there's even within ChatGPT, there's different models that you can use. The different tasks really extend out and experiment with those different models.
So it's not like barracking for footy team that you were just stating.
Who do you go for? Who's your 42?
Well, I alternate because I've moved states so often. You know, I find a bit of a response. Them and the Suns. I'm on the Gold Coast there, man. They both seem to be doing pretty well. What about you on this?
Apps, I'm going to sort of roll out of the search chatbot. I mean, we get a lot of internal testing, but there's some performance out there to say it was trained based on a key phrases, so anything in a better language and create one responses. But the issue is when you try something with sort of subject matter experts, when it gets to the least about the unity, it's really useless. We noticed that it had trouble with different fluid variations. And from there, we went through the logs and we started trying it based on different word combinations. And now with the large language models, it sort of removes that away. Can't be the time just when we pull word combinations as actually get context. So internal whole programs, the internal testing, it's sometimes it's just good.
So you go to rollbacks, because that is part of the.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
We push something out in a lot of the chatbots. I read your chatbots every week, and it's very interesting seeing how we communicate with that. And that's how you really go work out sort of how good your community is, how well does it answering. Because it's not just saying, we do have the cert, but it's how they're defining this. But actually create responses, because sometimes when you get a response, and might not actually answer the question fully. So they're looking at their local transcripts, putting it into AI and get it to then analyze. So it's hundreds of conversations and sort of look up the key dates and the key points that many teachers.
Sounds like everyone needs a Scott in their organisation. It's like you.
Karen, I just can't imagine how work in a system of putting something out there, rolling it back. You'd have to be pretty sure and have your own race in the realm out.
Yeah, definitely. Thinking at you asked that question. So we've been doing, I guess, the stage before a bios brief concept. So that's something we've been working with some of the newer tech. The translation on that. I mentioned we'll be looking at what does translation look like and applying that across the topic to identify false. And then it turns out that even with AI, you just that change, so it affects the rolling out. It's about how sticking their info, so we might be using that same type of AI to transcribe from language back to English so that our clinical team could then audit those calls. And then we're only working with a language translation organisation within it double checks the quality of the AI in translating. So for us, we need to have that process to make sure that when we do go to pilot or when we do go to pull out, that we're very confident. Yeah.
Well, I think we better stop. We've got a big flashing red screen. Doesn't mean the world needs this panel needs to. I want to thank everyone. It's been, I think, a really fantastic discussion. Kate Barnes, Eban Escott, Scott Newman, and of course Karen Gallagher. Thank you all very much. And it's